Hello and welcome to ECOTIMES magazine podcast. I'm your host, Alex Strong. Today we've got a special guest, Stefanie Spear from EcoWatch.com. Stefanie's going to tell us all about what's going on in her site and what's on kind of her radar in terms of eco and stuff she wants to highlight. Stefanie, are you there?
I am. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming. So Stefanie, can you just introduce yourself and explain about what your site does and kind of lead into the subjects we would like to discuss about?
Yeah, sure. So Stefanie Spear, I'm the founder and CEO of EcoWatch. EcoWatch is a leading news website. We report on environmental news, green living, and sustainable business. I've been publishing environmental news for more than 25 years, primarily through newsprint. So the online news is new to me within the last 3 years when we took EcoWatch online. So, but our goal is to educate and motivate people to care about human health and the environment, get as many people on board to realize the importance of a healthy planet and to take that journey from a humanistic viewpoint to a biocentric one.
That's amazing. That's an amazing mission statement as well. I'm very impressed. So let's start with renewable energy. I know it's something you're passionate about. I'm very passionate about renewable energy. What kind of renewable energy is on your radar that you think is kind of going to lead the way? Go for it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of distributed generation, on-site renewable energy, where people install solar or wind to power something specifically. Actually, it was about 6 years ago, I was fighting a conventional coal-fired power plant in Ohio. And I was trying to get all these municipalities to see that they shouldn't sign a 50-year contract that would keep them tied to coal. And we were headed in the wrong direction. A lot of the municipalities were signing on. In the long run, we won. But I got so frustrated that I was like, I'm done fighting. I'm just going to focus on solutions. And I launched a company called Expedite Renewable Energy. And I still run it today. It's a consultancy business, but I help residents and businesses invest in renewable energy, distributed generation. So I believe that when people invest in renewable energy for their own home or their business, they just have a different consciousness level. They first realize the importance of efficiency because they're about to invest in generating their own power. And they become efficient, and then they install their system and they start generating their own power, and it triggers something in them that lasts a lifetime. I fully believe we can power our country, our world from cleaner renewable energy sources. It's really policy that prevents us from doing that, and also money in politics.
100%. I'm a firm. I never quite understood why people thought it's a good idea to spend thousands of pounds on solar panels and then feed it back to the grid, whereas I'm totally with you, Stefanie. Why aren't you buying, putting that power back into your house, and that's it? You'll never have an electricity bill again. It seems a no-brainer for me. So I tell you something that come across my radar that was very impressive. I went to a conference 2 weeks ago in Ireland. It was called the Web Summit, and there was an engineer / hacker there, and he is working for the Gates Foundation, and they invented it was basically like nuclear waste.
Yep.
Hello?
Yes.
It's still there. Basically, they've got all this nuclear waste just kind of sitting there, like plutonium or whatever it is, and they've basically invented a generator that can utilize all the nuclear waste. So instead of where it partially burns it or whatever, they actually they invented this generator that could use this kind of old nuclear waste, and basically he said that he showed a picture in America somewhere, and it's like 600 tons of nuclear waste, and he said this pile with this generator that these clever engineers and scientists have invented, they could power the Earth for another 1,000 years, the whole Earth. And I was just blown away with that statement, and it'd be really interesting to see, is that going to come, across our radars? I mean, like it's made, so why is it not going right away?
Yeah, not knowing much about that technology, it would be interesting to learn more. We do have a ton of radioactive waste that scares me. So it would be interesting to hear more about that.
It was very impressive. I'll send you a link actually. Consumption. That was another big subject that we wanted to cover, wasn't it, Stefanie? So, I'm sure you're a firm believer. I'm a firm believer myself in terms of a kind of minimalistic approach. I'd rather have the best of something but less of it, instead of kind of cluttered with lots of kind of mass consumerism. How about yourself?
Yeah, we need to buy less stuff for sure. We got to get the word out. I think I think no one said it better than the story of Stuff when Annie Leonard came out with her first 20-minute film. People need to be more conscious. It seems like the majority of people are just looking for the cheapest items, and they just overconsume like crazy. We have to start voting with our dollar. We have to support local businesses and, become more conscious and consume less. Reverend Billy and the Stop Shopping Choir is another great example of people who are working so hard to encourage people to buy less.
Right. And what exactly are they doing to encourage it?
Well, they've done for several years on Black Friday. They've gone and they sing at shopping malls and explain to people through their art and their theater that we just don't need all this stuff, and that we should be more conscious and care about the health of our planet and understand what all this shopping is doing, not only to the health of the planet, but also to human health.
That's good. That's really good. It just seems very much we live in a society where everyone's trying to keep up with. We call it keeping up with the Joneses. I don't know whether you call a similar term over in the States. Do you say that?
We do, yeah. And people always think the grass is greener. My motto is less is more.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I went for a jog today, and I was jogging around near the countryside, some beautiful houses, and you think, we've got a lovely house, but it's hugely large, it's massive, but what's the point? You only can be in one room at a time, and it takes a lot of energy, obviously, to power that house as well, because it's not exactly like they're very efficient. They're not built like a kind of passive house, where you're kind of trapping all the heat in, and it's built how a house should be built. So I'm totally with you in terms of less is more. That's why I like the tiny house movement and the minimalistic movement. I haven't got to quite a minimalistic life yet, but I'm working on it. How about yourself, Stefanie?
Well, like I said earlier, everyone's on a journey, right? I see things somewhat as a light switch. You're either conscious or you're not. And I do believe that people overnight, just one moment can make them all of a sudden conscious of their impact on the earth. And there's no going back. But just because you became conscious doesn't mean that the next day you're composting, recycling, voting with your dollar, supporting all local foods, not using plastic. It's a journey. So I'm definitely on my journey as well. I do my best. I try and do better. I do give things up every so often. I wanted to give up straws for years, and I finally did about 2.5 years ago. It's hard to always remember every time you're at a restaurant. I'll have water, no straw, please. So I'm really confident that if a majority of people are on that path, that it would make a huge difference. And there's kind of, like I said, no going back. You just, keep implementing more things in your daily life to kinder to the earth.
What's your view, Stefanie, on climate change, and in terms of, all this misinformation, in the world? Is climate change real? Is it not? Are the media, saying one thing for their own, benefit? It's just like very much. I feel sorry for, because when I try and, I think it's very real, and I think the science is there to back it up. But some people still don't believe it is real. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, my thoughts. Climate change is real. We're not acting fast enough. I don't know of almost any policy or country that's moving in the right direction quickly enough to, all we're doing is accelerating climate change. The media, there's very deep pockets in the Koch brothers and ALEC, and money in politics is probably the biggest threat that our country faces. Our politicians on both sides are owned by corporations. Fortunately, there have been these amazing power of the people moments here. 400,000 showing up in New York City to march for climate action, and other great times that have really turned the tables. But things are not moving fast enough. Just this evening, we're waiting to get a final vote on whether or not the Senate will pass a Keystone XL pipeline bill approving the Keystone XL pipeline. The fact that that's still even a thought when we're talking about, climate change is absurd.
So could you just give us an overview of this XL piping bill?
So the Keystone XL pipeline is a pipeline TransCanada is building, and tar sands is the most highly corrosive, carbon-inducing oil on the earth, and TransCanada wants to get it from Calgary in Canada across the U.S. border via this pipeline, and then get it to the coastline of Texas and export it overseas. And TransCanada's had great difficulty getting a permit to allow that pipeline to cross the border. And we have been, as a movement, successful for years to prevent this permit from going through. Just 2 days ago, last Friday, a bill passed the House, and it's passed the House many times to approve the Keystone XL pipeline, and it's gone in front of the Senate and hasn't passed. Well, today, around 6:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there will be a vote in the Senate on the Keystone XL pipeline, and we don't know what will happen. I just, about an hour before this interview, got off the phone with Senator Sherrod Brown, the senator for Ohio, where I live, and I couldn't get a yes or no. I'm assuming he's going to say no to the pipeline, but there's a lot of Democratic senators that will say yes today. So we're just kind of sitting on the edge of our seat here, wondering which way that vote will go. Now, of course, once it passes the Senate, it will go to President Obama's desk, and he has suggested that he will veto it.
Yeah, I'm suggesting and doing it is. I believe he said he'd do a lot of things when he come into power. I don't personally know his current political situation, and I'm a political atheist, so. But, hopefully he does, because I don't think it'd be very good for the country or the world. It doesn't sound... it just seems crazy, there's so across our desk, we just see loads of different types of renewable energy all the time. Like loads of different types, infrared, all sorts of crazy stuff. And it just seems, well, why don't we just kind of channel some of the capital and the cash flow into that, and like, let's make this work. Let's move forward in the world, and go explore space or something great, instead of trying to destroy the earth and get all the money. It's a bit crazy.
It is, but it's these deep pockets of the fossil fuel industry. And when you look at their, financial forecasts, their future profits are based on these fossil fuels that are still in the ground. And for the most part in this country, we have already gotten to the easy to get to fossil fuels. Coal, of course, has been a huge part of how we were able to have the Industrial Revolution in our country and what powered it. And still, coal provides a very large percentage of electricity for our nation. But there's not so easy to get to coal anymore. And that's why they've been blowing up the tops of mountains in Appalachia, mountaintop removal coal mining, which has devastated communities and the health of people and the whole entire region. But, they just don't want to stop, and they'll do anything to prevent having to stop.
It's crazy. When we were in Australia, and the fracking is extremely big in Australia, and obviously it's very damaging for the earth, and it's just ridiculous. If you actually like think about it, like the bigger picture of what we're doing, we're just going to wipe ourselves out at this rate. Do you think there's much more of a kind of awakening from the kind of general person on the street, or do you think they're still very much just watching their Netflix, just ignoring the bigger picture? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the tipping point. And some days I think we're really close, and others I'm just not so sure. I know it's possible. I hate to think that it's going to take more tragic events like Katrina and Sandy and typhoons that have greatly impacted other countries. I hate to think that, we're not going to do the right thing until we're forced into it. I'd love to think that we're conscious enough of a people to listen to the science and understand what's at stake. When I started publishing environmental news more than 25 years ago, I was like, well, we really are all the same. All people are the same, right? We want, food on the table. We want our kids to be well educated. We want to, be warm on cold days. At the end of the day, we all need water to survive and clean air to breathe. And everyone wants the best for their kids and their grandkids, but they are clouded by, watching too much TV, and the media really does a disservice. One reason I've stayed in this industry is because we have a right, the media has a duty to educate people on the most important issues impacting their lives. And I've been saying for 25 years, what issues more important than the health of our planet? So
it's crazy.
I wish the conversation was moving more quickly. I wish that the tipping point would come tomorrow.
I would like to thank our sponsor this week, which is ECOTIMES magazine. They cover everything green. Magazine is on the iPad and iPhone. They cover eco travel, amazing eco travel resorts, organic recipes, so amazing recipes to cook, eco gadgets, what's the latest gadgets in eco, amazing eco transport, so battery powered bikes, hybrid cars, battery powered cars, renewable energy, what's the latest in renewable energy in terms of all the different innovative ways we can get energy. Eco how-to, so for example, how to build your own solar panel or own house or something along those lines. They cover eco architecture, so like eco building. They cover tiny houses, which are amazing small houses on wheels, which you should definitely check out if you haven't seen them. They cover all eco news, so what's been going on in the week, and organic food growing techniques. Anything green really, and it's a weekly magazine, and it's on the iPad and iPhone or iTunes. So the link is below, so please enjoy. And now we get back to the show. Thank you very much. it's sad that we live in a society where it has to be a tipping point for us to take action, and you know, it's but I definitely feel that lots of people in the States are very aware, or more aware now. You know, you've got lots of preppers, you know, people who are prepared for any kind of emergency, and it seems a lot more people are growing their own food, and a lot more of that. Do you see a lot more of that in your country, or is it still very much a minority?
No, I do see that. I think, I'm so happy to see nonviolent civil disobedience taking center stage today. I was old growth forest activist many years ago, and participated in a lot of nonviolent civil disobedience to prevent cutting of old growth forests. And there seemed to be a big lull in people really standing up and taking action. So it's great to see that. But I also see just a larger divide than ever before. People are either on this side or that side, and I just hate that. I don't understand why we can't find middle ground more often, when at the end of the day, we need water to drink and air to breathe to survive. We all need that.
So what are the kind of big divides within the country? Is it the kind of extremely wealthy versus everyone else, or is it is it more politic party, or is it, I don't know, what divides are can you see in your country?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're very much a two-party system. So politically, yes. I also think the media does a disservice every day by, misinformation. Now, I'll come clean too. I mean, I definitely believe that most media has an agenda, or all media has their agenda. I mean, we do. We want people to become conscious of their impact on the earth, and to, join in and, living a biocentric lifestyle. And that is our agenda. But, there's such a disservice going out there when you have quote unquote climate deniers on your station and Fox News. I meet new people and I'm like, where do you get your news? It's just one of my starting questions. And, it's just, right away by where they say they get your news, what their opinions are. It's amazing.
Oh, right.
So media does just play a tremendous role in this divide. And, somehow, and there's very few media that's just kind of middle of the road today. So we need to, find that common ground. And I do that all the time. Like, if I know someone I shouldn't go to the climate conversation with, I don't. And I just look at them and I say, well, can you agree that as a society, we're over-consuming resources to a point where future generations could have difficulty, sustaining themselves on this planet? And the majority of people will agree with that. Okay. So I try and find that where can we agree? And with that one, I tend to find even people who have a very strong stance where they don't believe climate change is human induced, they will agree with that.
Yeah. I just hope that people wake up. And that was another point we wanted to discuss, was how important it is, if you even to share this content, isn't it? In terms of being able to share, if you come across a great article or a bit of media that's, explaining what's going wrong in the world, or, highlighting an eco issue that is spreading the word, isn't it? That's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Never before people have the opportunity to share content with their friends or neighbors or family. So EcoWatch is a great source for content. I encourage your listeners and your readers to sign up for our top news of the day. They can do that right at EcoWatch.com. And, with Thanksgiving coming up here in the States, I tell people, don't get in a brawl at the dinner table, but, bring up topics that you think people will relate with.
What's the rule? Don't talk politics, religion, or about a family member that's, you know, something's going wrong. Just it's a very delicate subject, isn't it?
It is, but it's also, I find it to be an opportunity to have conversation, true conversation, not, one thing, I have never been a finger pointer. You can't point your finger. You need to just...
Well, I have to confess, like, I have a family member I love very dearly, but when I discuss, climate change or something along those lines, they don't believe it exists because of the kind of media they consume, and it's very, very frustrating. And it gets to a point where you don't want to argue about it, so it's very tricky.
Yes. Well, I find it the human health issue. So, I like to focus on and talk with people who are just beginning to connect the dots between human health and the environment. Because, the majority of people on this planet have been raised in a very humanistic viewpoint. Like, the planet is here for us to consume. And there's nothing further from the truth. But people have to go along, like I said, this journey, this path, to get to an understanding that that's not true. And that we are very reliant on other species for our own survival. And if we have an unhealthy planet, we're unhealthy too. So, cancer is clearly a huge epidemic in this world. And I try to sometimes bring in, connections in that way. And consciousness of what you put in your body, if you think about those kind of things. And at EcoWatch, we've worked hard to broaden out our content and work to bring in what we call all shades of green. Everyone matters. We're not about alienating anyone. We want, the whole community, anyone interested in these issues, to come aboard. And that's why we love providing a broader range of content, because it gives our readers more opportunity to share the content with different types of people. So no fights at Thanksgiving and holidays coming up. But, I think it is an opportunity to have great conversation with the people you love.
I totally concur. It's just, what's your view, Stefanie, on terms of the food? Like, because I'm very much believe that all this kind of GM thing, they're just trying to kill us. It sounds very serious, but why are they making GM modified food? I mean, why can't we just have organic food? What's wrong with that? Like, it seems crazy to me.
It seems crazy to me as well. And I do feel that food is clearly a great topic to focus on. And, even the diet of what you choose to put into your body is a huge issue. Because, I've read lots of reports. If more people ate a plant-based diet, that would greatly decrease, methane emissions, and we'd be in a better place. So I do think people have to think about the food that they consume, and the whole genetically modifying GMO and Monsanto. It's a huge issue.
Why does it exist though? I mean, I must have missed the trick here, but like, is it for speed of production of food, or? So
they truly believed. I do believe that they thought it was a good idea. And they thought they could increase yields. And if they had these genetically modified seeds that could withstand the pesticides that were being sprayed, that it would, in the end, reduce the amount of pesticides needed and increase yields, and everything would be great. But then super weeds came along and super bugs, and the species learned to withstand withstand. So now what's happened is they need to spray more pesticides, and it's hurting the yields. And at the end of the day, they're coming. I think a lot of people have come to the conclusion, including like the Rodale Institute and many others, that organic farming is the only way. We have an incredible group of insightful writers at EcoWatch, and one of them is Coach Mark Smallwood. And he is the executive director of Rodale Institute. And he has written incredible posts about how organic agriculture can reverse climate change. He talks about how this one hospital is using organic produce to help heal patients. He says to get out of climate debt, the U.S. needs a CO2 savings account, which he believes is the soil.
Right. Well, I hear a lot about the soil. Like, there's not much like amazing soil left in the earth or something.
Yeah, and so I've had these really intense calls lately. People who are like, that the future of to save the planet, we must go organic. We have to completely convert to organic gardening, and a lot of people are at a point of saying, stop doing everything else, and they think everyone should just focus on like regenerative organic farming, and that can reverse climate change, and all this other stuff we're trying to do in the long run just isn't going to get us where we need to go. So check out Coach Mark Smallwood's pieces all on that. It's incredible. But we have to keep the conversation going. We have to educate more people on these issues, and we have to become more conscious within ourselves.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. And spread the word. We've got to spread the word. Spread the word.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Stefanie. And you can find Stefanie at EcoWatch.com. And we look forward to having you back on the show.
I would love that. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much for enjoying our Eco Times Magazine podcast. We'd like to tell you all the platforms we're on. So we're on SoundCloud. We're on Stitcher, which is for Android. If you've got Android phone, you can download a Stitcher, which is a podcast app, and get the Eco Times podcast on there. We're on iTunes, so you can get it on your iPhone and iPad and all your Apple devices. And we're on TuneIn as well. And we're on YouTube. So please subscribe to whichever platform works best for you. And thank you very much for listening. We want to say a big thank you very much to Eco Times Magazine for sponsoring the podcast. They are a weekly magazine, cover everything green. So if you're interested in growing your own food, renewable energy, amazing eco resorts, eco gadgets, basically anything green, how to build your own home, tiny houses, eco transport, organic food, anything green really. Big thank you to them. And please check them out. The links be below, and it's on the Apple newsstand, so you'll be able to get it on your iPad and iPhone. Thank you and have a great day.